Come check out how to take your Mournfang cavalry from zero to tabletop hero.
Spiking bits.
What's up, Hobby Maniacs? Baer with you again today with a fantastic Hobby Hump Day tutorial on how to take your Mournfang cavalry from primered plastic to tabletop standard. Now this is the very tippy top. This is the next level. This is beyond tabletop standard, but we're going to show you just how easy it is to a few techniques, a few airbrush fades on your Mournfang right there, and you are good to go. You are ready for the tabletop and tournament ready. It all comes down to just adding in the base, which is a separate tutorial here on the channel already, so you can fast forward to watch that. But today we're going to show you how to get those sick fades and do all your base coating on your model to prep for all the work to take it to the next level, which you can come back to at any time. Alright, so first off is going to be some fur action. So before we get to this point, you should probably take your model out and use some of this fantastic uniform gray primer from the Army pattern. But be careful, this stuff is not, I guess, good for using in high humidity. You could probably use it out a garage door or something, you know, or out into a garage, something that's in a controlled environment, blowing out into a, you know, more open environment, so you don't breathe as much stuff in, I suppose, or you could just, you know, whatever. I'm not telling you how to prime. I'm just saying don't do it outdoors if it's very humid, because Army painter, it really isn't made to mess with that. Now, conversely, there's a lighter gray I use from Testers. There is also another lighter gray, or a semi-darker gray, which almost matches this, called Panzer Gray from Testers Model Masters. It's an enamel, or excuse me, it's a lacquer. It works really good. If I had that, I probably would have used this, but I just happen to have a bottle of this laying around that I figured, hey, I'm just going to use it. So you start with this nice even gray undercoat, which is really going to accent the colors that we're picking here. So now, I know I haven't shown you what we're going to do yet, but this is basically what the model is going to end up like. We're going to see something like this right here, which is the little Mournfang that I've already painted. So we're going to go from a darker transition to a lighter transition down at the bottom, which kind of blends in with the snow and the kind of like darker, different gray on the bottom there. So we're going to take it up through that and kind of show you all the techniques for getting this to the tabletop, basically a tabletop standard today. And so the first step is obviously your airbrushing, which makes it a lot easier. So let's see, what are our colors for that? Our colors are, first off, we're going to use kind of a mix of, you could use Thunderhawk Blue, which is very similar to the mix I made, which is, I have literally $100 in paint laying out here on the the tabletop, and I'm trying to find where everything is. Oh, here it is. So I made this mix. It's a little dark, and what this is black and electric blue, which electric blue is a great game air color. So if you notice, if I just mixed a little bit more electric blue in with this, it would have been very close to this Thunderhawk Blue right here. You can kind of see it starting to come through. So I actually used Thunderhawk Blue on some of the secondary highlights, and it worked out great. So for this tutorial, we're gonna keep it true. We're gonna use this, but you can tell that it is a little lighter right here. So I kind of like this color, but conversely, if you don't have either of those colors and all you're stuck with is a G-dub color, you can definitely use this Thunderhawk Blue right here. So keeping that in mind, first off, we're gonna mix some of this up. Now remember, you want to be careful with your blacks, because black really overpowers your mixture. So you want to use about 80% of the blue and probably like 20% of the black to get it to this color. Now, I had to batch it a little bit. Oh wait, this was the original batch. So this is way too dark. This is actually that recipe I just told you. So you can tell now when you take a look at the Thunderhawk Blue, it's very similar. This is a little bit lighter, but it's right along in the same palette there. So I mixed up a little of that in here, and this is actually what we're going to use to airbrush. This is the darker version, and I'll use this. I'll mix in, when I run out of this, I'll mix in the electric blue into this to kind of have more of a mix on my hand there. Okay, so first off, we're gonna grab up our mix, load up our airbrush, and come back and start laying down the base coats here. Alright, so I got the pot loaded up with that mixture we talked about right there, and we're just going to go in, make sure it's blowing good. It sure is. So we're just going to go in and we're going to work the top. So I'm going to hit it from about halfway up, all the way up the model. Now I'm kind of going to do a little curve right here in the middle to kind of get that, match that curvature of the back. But I'm just going to get in there and make sure I get a nice even coat over everything, hit all your different angles. You know, so you get a nice coat. Now this is a little wet, which I'm digging, because I know it's gonna push through really well. So if it gets a little too wet for you right here, you can always just press down on your air and kind of dry it out, which is really good too for fixing a lot of mistakes and such like that. So basically just hitting it all up, checking all our angles, laying down that nice dark base coat to basically go over. This is kind of a mid-range transition because we're going to hit the top with some black and we're going to come in and hit the bottom with some neutral grays and such like that as well. So it's going to be kind of like a transition. There you can see right there that I kind of hit it all underneath, hitting the face and kind of splitting the face right here. You can kind of see I want to make sure that the face is nice and light because that's a detail that we always look at as faces, right? So I'm going to dry it out. Just going to set it down here and switch out to my other color. So next up on our little fur highlight here is going to be, where is it? Wait for it. Here it is. This is US Gray from Vallejo Model Air. It's 71047. It's a nice neutral gray. It's going to go pretty good with this little kind of, I guess more of a turquoise type of gray here. So it's a blue gray, and then we're going to transition to a gray, well, white gray, and then we're going to hit the tips with the white. So it's going to be a really interesting transition when we're done with it. So I got that in my pot here, and we're going to come in hot. Not too hot, so we're looking good there. Now, same deal. I'm going to follow that little general curvature of the model and try to get it from underneath because now the underneath is going to start coming in here. So you want to make nice even transitions to where basically like the stuff we were doing with the base coat of that kind of like blue gray right there. Blue gray mix was more of a just get it coated kind of type deal. And while we're at it, I'm just going to hit the bottoms too, just in case there's any little overspray right there. I want to make sure I get a nice even coat there. So we're going to go up into here and around and get the face all good from underneath, because remember, you're always looking at faces, whether you realize it or not subconsciously. You're always looking at faces and eyes and things on a model there. So hit it from the back here, going from underneath, getting that nice even transition and up a little high on that high leg right there to simulate that arched back. We're going to come back and do some cutbacks too. This is just the basics. And there it is, super easy. Now we got two more shades to go that are really gonna make this, the next one's really gonna make it pop, I feel like. So next up is gonna be some black, and we're just gonna hit it with the kind of an axial spray right down the middle here to overlap basically these contours, but making the contrast up top and as opposed to the bottom where we're going to hit the white. So for that, I'm just going to use some old miniature black I have laying around. You could use pretty much any black out there for the airbrush. They're all pretty much the same. Make sure you use your flow improver to help with the black so doesn't sputter or anything like that. And like I said, all we're going to do is just kind of go axial from the top down. Just give it a nice solid coat right off the bat just to get a good paint by numbers kind of look, and then hit it from the side to kind of cut it in to that bluish gray mix right there, and then kind of work it all the way back. And there you can see the contrast kind of looking like a razorback almost, like where it's really dark towards the top. Now it's really gonna pop when we hit those whites. The whites are gonna be where it's at basically. That's really gonna change it up a lot. But then I'll probably come back with that mid color and tidy up a couple of things, like any faces that I don't like how it looks or anything like that. I wanna make sure that those areas are really taken care of. So there's the black. You can kind of see all the way around. A couple of spots right there. I mean, it's all like just kind of playing it by ear, but you wanna just respect the curve of the actual model itself, like with the arch back and stuff, but you don't want to mess up your blue color there either, and you want to make sure you get in all the cracks. So if there's any detail or anything, make sure you work around it. But there you can see it's really starting to pop with contrast right there. And the next paint in the line for the fur is going to be a white. Now I'm using the, what is this? This is old miniature paint I had. It's Snow White, and I like this one because it doesn't speckle out quite as much if you add the Vallejo Flow Improver. But you can literally use any white out there. I have some Game Air right here as well, and I mean there's pretty much every white in the book out there. So for this one we're going to go opposite, and we're going to do a thing called Just the Tips. It's a familiar game, you might have heard of it. So we're basically just gonna hit down here towards the bottoms on all this and very kind of meticulously just hit those spots. And you can see right there, it already starts popping really. I'm just gonna get in here, and you wanna make sure that you don't kind of hit like one side and the other like you see there on that leg. You gotta flip it around and get that other side. So you have to be very careful when you're doing this, because A, white is a difficult color to work with, which you can see there isn't any splotching. But also B, you want to make sure you get the right angles and that you're fading it up as best you can to get that contrast. Now right there you can see, wow, that just really kind of came together. That's a lot of cool contrast, but now you got to really work it and kind of pull it through and hit all these angles from the underneath. This is where the devil is in the detail. So you really want to turn all your TVs off, you know, really get in there, pay close attention, turn all your phones off, put all your cats on lock, and just get in here and really do the Lord's work with a lot of these angles so you hit everything just right, because there's so many angles and so much going on that you don't want to mess everything up. Now as I'm working slowly up to the front, because that's where you want to pay the most attention, because remember, like I said, you might not realize it, subconsciously we all look at faces, and that's like a big thing for a model, so you don't want to screw that up at all. Want to make sure you're maintaining, you know, the best pressure on your airbrush. So we're going to cut up over those horns and kind of bop them on the nose with the white here, because I feel like make sure we get nice and consistent coverage down underneath here. But then we're going to spray directly at the face. So let me get in here, get a good look, because I'm trying to make sure you guys see exactly what I'm seeing. So I want to get right there and just kind of work, and then you see right there where we got to flip it around and make sure we get all those angles too. Now there's going to be a little bit of overspray. You see, like it kind of started to raise up into the grays. That's fine, because we're not just airbrushing. We're not just airbrushing and calling it done. We're going to give this thing a wash and a dry brush. That's going to get us to our tabletop quality. We're going to come back and detail it out in another video. So, and also do the rider today as well. So I want to make sure that we get a nice consistent coverage, and a little overspray is good because it pulls down that black and kind of transitions things really right up into that gray. So now that we've got all the undercuts, everything's looking good. Checking every angle because we don't want to mess anything up there. I think it looks good. I think that's a good quality product that anybody would be super happy. Right there, you can just be like, throw it on a base, and for the most part, not be embarrassed to be playing with the model on the table. I feel like, well, we're gonna get it up to tabletop today. We're gonna keep going, and we're gonna hit you back. This is about all the airbrushing. I might come in and do some fades with some gray cutbacks into the black, but I don't need to show you how to do that. You've probably seen that a bunch of times on this channel between here and Next Level Painting. So pretty much we're gonna put the airbrush away, I think, at this point, and focus more on a lot of the details going forward. So you know when I said that was all the airbrushing we were going to do? Well, I lied. Yeah, it turns out that isn't. I apologize. So we have a little bit more airbrushing to do. We're going to do some bone airbrushing on our test model here. Let me find him. Here he is right here. So this guy is... We're going to do some bone airbrushing up here on this. And you can see I've already base coated the TUSKS. And I did it kind of a combination of colors. So our normal airbrushing is going to be this Menoth white base, and then we're going to transition to a Menoth white highlight, and then up into a darker, well, that's down towards the ends. Towards the tip, we're actually going to go up towards a brown, because it's kind of like a reverse kind of shading on these tusks here. But for the base coats, what we're going to do is I actually went in and I base coated all the tusks towards the front, because it's going to be hard to airbrush down in these cracks here without getting it on the fur. Even if I get a piece of paper in there and kind of try to block it off and stuff, it's going to get on the fur, and I don't want that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start out here where I can get the paper in and start fading it with this Menoth white base right here. So that way it'll give me a little bit of play. This will be lighter because I'm using that combined light color, because I'm not actually going to come in and airbrush this color. But what it's also going to do is give me some stuff towards the end here, some space to transition from the Menoth white base to a darker brown at the tips. Now up here, we're just going to go full bore because we got the space with the highlight down at the bottom, and going to work it all the way up towards the top with the Menoth white base, and then into, I think we're using Steel Legion Drab is our third color here. I gotta find it, but it is around here, I assure you. So that's how we're gonna do that one. But then there's even more airbrushing actually. So we're gonna have one more piece of airbrushing to do. We're gonna actually airbrush the metals on the rider itself. So we're gonna get in there and airbrush all those metals, because that's the majority of what you see here. Everything else is easy to do with base coats and a couple of tricks like washes and things like that. So let's jump right into it. Alright, so it isn't rocket surgery basically to get in here. You just mix up a 50-50 mix of the Menoth white and the Menoth white base, and then just get a big fat brush here. Grab your fantastic paint palettes, which are water bottle lids, but that's okay. They work just fine. And I'm actually going to hit this with a second base coat. I mean, for y'all, it would be the first, but it's really thin because it is that highlight of white. So I'm just going to get in here and I'm just going to kind of go over the work I did very loosely. But for y'all, it would be more of a controlled base coat, I feel like, where you'd be getting in here and working all the angles and watching a little bit more carefully what you were doing. Now, I want to concentrate down here towards the bottom, right, where this color is going to stay, because I'm going to airbrush up towards the tops with the Menoth white, base, right? So just get you a nice solid base coat color right there, and then do all of your horns, and then we're going to switch over to doing the airbrush stuff. Alright, so now we're going to get in here and hit up all of the bone colors with the Menoth white base. So I'm starting mid-range with the Menoth white, because what I want to do is I want to basically fade it up and down. So I want to get this nice mid-range color that isn't too light but isn't too dark, and it'll stick to everything. So I'm just going to get in here, hit all this bone area in the back, the tops. Now, depending on which Mournfang you're using, it's all pretty much the same. Like, you'll have some sort of bone detail up here. You just want to make sure you're working these angles right. You can see I'm attacking it from the bottom so it doesn't spray back onto all the Mournfang fur I've already done, because you don't want to, kind of lose all that work you did. But I'm also kind of watching and working all of the angles that you might see, so I get that nice base coat here. Even going back across, I'm still going in different direction than down onto the fur itself, because you don't want to waste all that time and effort you've already done. And then you just kind of check, and you can see right here towards the top there is some gray, so you just want to hit it at another angle that won't get on your fur. It's literally that easy, folks. Literally. So that is pretty much done there. Now, if you look here, you can see, well, it's still kind of wet, but you can tell it kind of looks like a slightly different color than the stuff I painted down at the bottom. Now, when this dries, this is going to be a darker color than what's at the bottom that we painted on, that 50-50 mix of the two. So this is going to be good to go to airbrush right here. And now I'm going to use some sort of aid, right? So you can use little index cards or anything like that, really, to get in here and kind of block off areas. You could even use paper towels, all sorts of different stuff, right? So I've got that. So basically now all I need to do is kind of spray right at that angle right there, and then I'll switch it and I'll spray it back so that I don't get anything on the actual fur, again, the face, or accidentally hitting that face or anything like that. So there's that. Pretty super easy right there. Same thing over here. I'm just gonna kinda, well, that one's actually easy because, well, I can just do that without the little card, right? And there's that one. There's that one right there, so it doesn't cross over. You wanna make sure you're trying to hold this too. Of course, trying to do everything at once is always a little daunting, so you wanna make sure you got a good placement. There you go. Try to hold everything together, and this is why we did that with the, you know, went in with the brush and put that base coat down, because I knew this was going to be a pain from the get-go. Now imagine trying to do that all the way back there. Man, it's just really not going to work. But you can see the fade right there, like it's starting to come through, right? So now I'm kind of looking at some other spots that I might need to do. You always want to make sure you put the paint side towards the outside, because you don't want it accidentally splashing over on the fur again, causing issues. And right there, I'm gonna get in here just in case there isn't any overspray, or just in case there is. I don't want there to be. I'm gonna get all of that right there and get a nice good base coat right there, all the way around 360 around that one right there, and then switch back to do the same thing here. Remember, always keep that paint faced the right way. And I actually think I can just get in here, maybe protect it something like this. Yeah, there we go. See, you gotta just kind of do the research, kind of flip it around. Don't be afraid to take a couple extra minutes to get in here and do things the right way. It'll save you a lot of time on the backside, as you know, because you don't want to mess up and go back, because that's just a huge pain in the butt. But if you think, like right here, I know I can get that and kind of go outward, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit that spot right there. I feel pretty good about that I won't have any issues. And really what it is just, I'd like to get up towards the hinge right here of that. So I'm gonna work it a little bit more, but you kind of get the idea of exactly what you need to do there. And you can see this is already kind of dried, and it's definitely lighter than the front here. So I'm gonna go through, finish that up, then we're gonna come back and hit another color here in a second. So while I was nugging all these horns out, I noticed something that was, I discovered something that was actually pretty fun. I just put a little hole in there and stuck the horn through it. And what that does is that gives you a great backdrop. And as long as you kind of stay away from the bottom right here, it basically, you're not gonna get anything through it. So just kind of get in here and just hit around it and around it. As long as you're not breaking that plane, you're good to go. And you can even go down and then flip it around and kind of paint up and over right here to kind of shade it, and you should be pretty good to go right there. And it pretty much protects everything. So I'm loving that discovery right there. Up next is a little Steel Legion drab here, and I lucked out have the actual Citadel airbrush paint, so that's gonna really help us out here. But to be honest, I don't really like these. They're a little too watered down, so we got to be very careful with it, not to kind of splash it all over the place. So we're going to hit these raised edges right here on all the tips up here and the tips down here. Now, like I was saying, you can just basically kind of, well, with this little guy right here, it's going to be very easy because we'll be able to kind of block in this. But there was a little thing I did where I took my cat hair tweezers and I just poked a little hole in one of these and then just basically put it all, oh no, I broke it off. Ah, he's detusked. So I think what I should do is probably use a different, smaller card here, and that way I won't put that much torque. Well, that'll actually make painting that one a little bit easier, so I don't have to worry about it actually being on the model. And right here you can see I'm just kind of working it up and over this and back down into the cut right there, and there it is. So now we're going to be able to get in there and hit just the tip. And I better move this horn so I don't accidentally lose it. All right, there we go. So now we're ready to hit just the tip here. This is a great little color. It's really keeping with this whole pale theme of the Ice Army. So we're just going to get in here and very carefully just kind of hit the, I'm actually aiming at the bottom. And well, as you can see, it is quite watery, so it's taken its toll there on all that. So we're gonna get in here and get that angle. Make sure you guys can see it. This is a really interesting horn here. I've never really worked with anything quite like this one. Now, anything I don't get, we can always hit later, but I think we got that one right there, and then the other one that broke off, well, obviously that's gonna be pretty easy to paint, I feel like. So I'm just gonna fade back right here. It looks like a little 2-start, and boom, got us a nice fade right there. Pop this thingy off, and then we'll hit the backs. Get out of here, and we'll just hit the backs right here, and then the last airbrush coat after this will be, yeah, you can see it's just really watery. Man, I don't know how to thicken paint up. I don't know if they sell like a airbrush thickener, but man, this stuff is pretty ridiculous, to be quite honest. I'm not the biggest fan. I like the color match, but I feel like I could just mix it myself with some flow improver. Gets that gangsta gumbo, add a little water. I feel like I can do it. So oh well, but there it is right there. And you see, I got some overspray up on that curve, that Princess Leia curve right there, the bun horn. But I'm not too worried about it because we're gonna hit this up with a wash, and I think it's really gonna pull it through. Now, what I'm also thinking here is, now that I see this, and I think I'm gonna hit it with maybe like some black, like right at the tip, just to give it that like third transition. To like super darkness, but I'm not exactly sure. I'm gonna do it off camera and let you guys know what I think. But man, this stuff I would have just rather have mixed it myself, to be quite honest. So next up is gonna be some darkening action here. Like I said, just some black there just on the tip. So I'm just gonna grab some miniature black. You can literally grab any black you so desire that's an airbrush, and we're just gonna hit the tips right at the very top. And I'm actually aiming right above where the little bone, the very tip is, and then basically where I see the spray finally hit, I just kind of like slowly kind of pull down and hit the very tops right there. It's a very easy process. We'll be able to do this on probably without any of the little cardboard index card pieces on the horns. I just remembered that I'm gonna have to glue that guy back on right there, because I totally forgot that I broke him off, but that's okay. Like I said, it was actually a lot easier to shade him with it off there, so I'm okay with that. So you see right there, I'm just basically visualizing a target area, kind of off in just off at the tip, like almost like it's pointing at where I need to start spraying, and basically just hit it. Super easy. Now, it doesn't look like much right now, but what's really cool about it is that we're kind of keeping that color palette, that very icy color palette with these lighter colors, but we're coming in here with the black, and we're definitely gonna hit it. It's to basically build contrast, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem to make sense right now, but when we put a wash on this, a little glaze to kind of bring it all together, it'll all really start to make sense there. So this is it for this step of airbrushing. Now, what we're going to do is hit this up with some semi-gloss from Testers. That's that Testers enamel. I just bought a new can. Went down to my local hobby town, picked me up a new can of semi-gloss. This is also called satin. It is a lacquer, so theoretically I can use this outside in any humidity. North Carolina is pretty brutal, so I haven't had any issues yet with it. So we're gonna hit up all of these. After they dry, I'll probably leave them up for about 6 hours. Then hit them with this, let them dry, and then we'll come back and we'll do some washes. So now we're going to come in and do some of the details. Now that we got all the airbrush work out of the way, it's time to add in some details. Well, not really details, but extra color. So we are going to use Burnt Umber as a base coat. This is a Vallejo Model Air color to do all the howdahs and the back stuff here. Now, Burnt Umber is a color that really likes to go over dark areas. So you're going to have a problem when it starts to get up here and gets a little bit lighter. So just be aware that you might have to do, you know, an extra coat or two, basically. So I'm getting all that ready, and I got my new favorite brush here. This is my G-Dub Artificer Layer Medium. Now, it's rumored to be very similar to the Winsor Newton brushes, and we're going to put those head to head just to find out. But basically, I'm just going to get in here with this brush and nug out all of this brown detail, all of the howdah, the up, down into here, and all of this back here. Alright, so this is all blocked in and good to go. Now what I did was I went and I took my brush, I used a small brush to block out, kind of like a color hitting the outline, and I took my big brush and I came in and blocked all this stuff out. Now, next up we're going to hit like the leather saddle and the twine and all the metals and things. We're going to hit the leather with Mournfang brown, which is really nice, completely covering brown. And pig iron, which is a metal from P3. It's a great metal. It covers over in one coat. They're really great colors to work with. This is a base. P3 is basically a base. We're gonna get in there and we're gonna hit up all the metal and all the rest of it, like the twine and the sheaths and things like that. Some of this detail on the back here as well. And now our Mournfang is completely base coated. You can see all of the colors right there all coming together. All detailed out, nice solid base coat, ready to get into the detail phase, which we're going to do next video because this is tabletop quality now, and this will look good on the tabletop or on a battle report, and that's where we're trying to get it this video. More airbrushing time. I can't remember a time when I wasn't airbrushing. So easy peasy, we're gonna use that Necron metal mix here, which is black and steel from a Reaper. Very sweet color. I love this stuff. I will not use any other steel color out there. It always works for me. I don't care what Kenny says. This is my jam right here. So we're just gonna get in here with that dark metal and hit all the metal parts right here. It's super easy. You don't even have to like be careful. You just wide open, just blast it all the way up and down. The blade, the huge ass blade here. Now we're gonna reverse fade that one because we're gonna put blood details at the very end, probably in the last video, around the end right here, and just blast them all of the helmet. We're gonna get a sick fade on that big ass horn coming out of there. Check my mix a little bit. This is a super easy step. You just want to make sure you get a nice, good coat, but you don't have to be super careful with it, which is really nice. And down in here, all the way around. It might get a little watery, but that's okay. It'll dry really quick because it's very thin paint. Now, the first time when I painted my test figure, I was holding it like this, and guess what I forgot to paint? The boots. So don't forget the boots. So I want to grab this somehow. Normally I just do like assembly line and put this down and then pick another one up. But since we want to focus on this guy for the video, we're just going to get in here and maybe mess some stuff up. But that's okay. Nothing I can't fix. But for you guys, if you're doing an assembly line to these guys at home, don't F this part up. So there it is. Got all of our fades down, and it's gonna kind of get over on the skin, but we're gonna bring it back here in a sec. All right, second color is gonna be our normal steel mix, which is tarnished steel, 09206 from Reaper. Another great color. I love pushing this through the airbrush. Makes it look good. So like I said, we're gonna go right around the back here because we're gonna put blood stains on the front. So I'm basically aiming at the middle. And this is super easy highlights right there. Like, it'll all come together after the next one. We're just basically gonna run this down, hit all the, the very tips of everything right here. It's super easy. Just kind of going in and hitting everything you can see or imagine. It all kind of, you just gotta kind of concentrate and nug it out because everything's gonna have some overspray at this point. That's why we're doing it. But we're just kind of getting in there, hitting all the right spots. And like I said, after the next highlight, it'll really start to pop. It'll be super solid. Now I am gonna hit the feet just like at the tips because I don't really think it matters because after the wash, everything's gonna kind of coagulate down there at the bottom. But I still want a little bit of separation. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on that right there. But I do want this blade to look really, really good. So we're gonna fade the crap out of that. And then this backside here, of course, going right down the axis and hitting that, so you can really see that starting to form right there. We're not gonna mess around with the front, like I said. Oh, we'll get this bottom too. Final highlight coming up. And the last highlight color is True Silver from Reaper. Same mix as the Necron. So you can see we're gonna get in here and we're just gonna basically aim right off where we want our highlights. So I'm actually gonna aim off of the blade here and just kind of work my way up, and it'll catch that edge right there. I'm gonna hit all of this edge, which will kind of get back down onto that a little bit, I feel like. And same deal here, right? Aiming right off the horn. Not trying to actually hit the horn. Right there. And then it's kind of just plug and play at that point. Just kind of hit wherever the tips and things you want, like aiming right off right the shoulder pad. I'm just gonna hit the top of this gut plate, which I'm actually aiming at as boobies. There's man breasts, and then hit this bottom here. And for the helmet, I think I'm just gonna hit the back. Something like that. Super easy. We're gonna come back and hit it with a wash, tighten it all up after we get everything else blocked in. That might even be the second video. I haven't really figured it out. And then we're just gonna hit the tips right here of the feet and get that good look to it. I mean, I have that much in there, and I have 8 dudes, or what do we got? Yeah, roughly 12 guys to do that much paint. Should actually be more than enough to do all those guys, just hitting the highlights right there. All right, we're in the bonus hours now. So I didn't like the contrast too much when I was looking at this. So what I actually did was I grabbed some airbrush black, some miniature, and just threw it in the airbrush and started doing some contrast around some of the different areas. So we're gonna jump in here and show you how to do that real quick. So just basically the absolute reverse of the highlights. You're just gonna hit the spots that are the lowest away. So like right there, hitting that edge right there, and just getting in and creating a little bit of contrast. It's not exactly black. It's kind of like almost like a bolt gun. And then on here, I'm just gonna go in and get like the bottom of the gut plate, as opposed to like the top of the gut plate. And just like in the middle, right there on each footsies, each of the footsies, we're just gonna blast. So we create that contrast between the front and the back. And then looking at the faceplate here, I'm actually just gonna kind of hit the eye area right in here on each one, and then turn it into this the back of this blade here, just to give it that super contrast, which you start to see right there. And then around the back of the lip of the helmet. Boom. Now I'm gonna go in and hyper highlight a lot of, let me get this, we'll go right here on the shoulder pad. I'm gonna go in and hyper highlight a lot of this. So it's gonna, there might even be a little light dry brushing involved after a wash, but that right there starts to really create that contrast that really makes your stuff pop. And you can even, like down here on the ends too, you can just hit all this. It's super easy. You just want to take it nice and light. Don't get too crazy with the black, because it'll overpower your steels in a second. First item on the order of business is going to be the skin. Now, I won't lie, this is the suckiest part of this whole process, because you want the skin to look icy and pallid, and you want it on the same level as the Mournfang himself and the snowy bases that we're going to show you how to do in the next video. But it takes a lot to get there, and it's going to take a lot of coats of paint. So first up, we're going to hit this bad boy with Rakarth Flesh, which is a base color. And it's going to give us a nice solid base coat to add the next color to, which is going to be Kisa Flesh. Now you're sensing a theme there. This is a very pallid flesh kind of palette, so it's going to work really well with what we want to do. But it's going to take 2 coats, plus a wash, plus another top, or plus another highlight, plus a very top highlight of a lighter color. So this is literally the hardest part of everything. Once you get done with this, it's pretty much all downhill, just a couple of washes and some more detail work. So you can see the base coat, it's all pretty solid. It got all up under the nooks and crannies, all up underneath the hands, the wrists, all that stuff. It's a big job. It's one of the biggest chores you're gonna do on this model. Now we're gonna follow that up with some Kislev flesh right here, the layer, and that shouldn't have that much trouble going on. Now, incidentally, I'm using the Citadel Artificer layer brush, which is rumored to be just as good as the Winsor Newton Series 7 brushes. And in between this tutorial, or in between these frames here, I actually filmed the whole tutorial comparing the two brushes together by base coating a lot of this this flesh here, right? So that should be a separate hobby head-to-head tutorial on here, but you can kind of get a preview by what I'm doing right here, where you can basically see that it's a pretty decent quality brush. You can flatten down the bristles, and you can also get in here and do some fine detail, like, you know, trying to get around this wrist, which really makes it super valuable for doing actions like this. As long as you're working your paint very good and keeping it thinned down, of course, you know, you can really do a lot of good things with this brush. Now, this is the Artificer layer medium, which is more like a kind of an in-between between a detail brush and a fine, I guess like a detail brush and a base coating brush. I really like it. I think it's one of my new favorites, along with the Winsor Newton Series 7 #1 brush as well, which I compared it to. Now, getting on with the actual stuff that matters, the Kislev flesh, you know, it's going on one coat right over top of this base coat of the Raycart flesh, which is why it's really important to get a nice, decent laydown of the Raycart flesh. It can be splotchy, but it doesn't. You don't want it to be like super in between and stuff. So there you can see it's starting to come together really nicely. I'm going to finish it out, and because this is literally going to take probably 15 minutes a layer of flesh just to get in there and do it all. So the flesh is done. You can see a nice solid base coat all the way around, all underneath, and everything like that. Now you might notice that we did get some flesh on a couple of highlight areas for the steel. I'm not going to touch those up. A lot of people might go in and be like all those OCD and touch them up, like, oh, it's going to ruin it. But really, you're going to go in there and highlight that steel at some point anyways. So you might as well just save it for that, as long as it's just something on a highlight point. All right, next up is going to be the second most surface area base coat for this, and it should go on in one coat. We're going to use some blue, some Thunderhawk blue on all the pants for this squad that I'm doing here. I may switch up and do some grays for some of the other pants, but for these four guys I'm working on right now, for a squad of Mournfangs, we're going to use the Thunderhawk blue. So this is a layer paint. It's not quite a base coat, but like I said, it should still go on pretty solid and make a close to one coat base coat. It's a little watery here. I watered it down just slightly just to get the feel for how it's going to work, and it goes on beautifully. So you can tell this is going to be a one coat application. Loving it already, and just getting in there and going gangsta all over the place now. And then we're going to come back and work on some of the belts and things. Next up, we're just checking off all the boxes of the biggest surface areas to get a base coat on. So we're going to do this cloak back here, this Craven cloak, and the base coat for this is Zamazi Desert. Zamazi Desert. You heard it here first. So we're just going to hit that up real quick. Now, this paint is a layer paint. It's super easy to work with. It highlights very well, but we're going to wash it. Remember, we're just doing a lot of base coats here. So we're just going to get in here, and we're really going to start to see the separation of colors as we just kind of go up here and work our way around things. And then we're going to come back and do probably some browns for the trim. But you can see here on the pants, it's all good to go. Like super easy base coat there. We're just like I said, we're just checking the boxes, just knocking out these base colors. And as we work our way up to pretty much being done with Tabletop standard and starting to worry about the base, because a base can really make your Tabletop quality model, just your 3-color, your base coated model, really stand out on the tabletop. So I'm going to get in here, I'm going to really work these angles and really nug it out. Probably take about 10 minutes or so, give or take, and to get a nice solid base coat over that and make sure I hit all the edges just right. Alright, checking off more boxes. You can see there's the Craven cloak we got in there. We got a nice solid base coat on it. Now we're going to do all the leather belts and all the little wraps and everything that's on here. Not too much left, just that and maybe some facial hair right there. So we're going to use Mournfang Brown, and then we're going to give it a wash when we work into the next video and kind of highlight it up with that Skag Brown slash Harvest Brown, which is also pretty much the same color from Reaper, which is strange, kind of strange to me, but not really strange to me, I suppose, when you start thinking about things there. So this guy's really starting to come together, and you know, it's been a really fun project, like learning all these new colors from Games Workshop and stuff, and I've been really excited about it. So again, just getting some paint on the palette here and just kind of going in very delicately, making sure I'm getting this nice solid base coat in here around everything. Now, you're probably like, well, what do we do after we get everything base coated? Well, we're basically just gonna hit it with a semi-gloss paint and leave it, because now we're at tabletop quality. Like, now we're ready to go as far as detailing it up to the next level. But if we get all of our models to this quality and get all our bases done, the army actually looks good. Like, maybe the only other thing I could suggest is actually washing the flesh, but I'm 50-50 on that. You know, like, I'm kind of just like, hey, I just want to nug through. I mean, I guess you could do it and start base coating other stuff maybe, and then just start working on some other stuff. And that's just a personal preference really, because I feel like that's the only other thing that can really make these guys pop here. So I'm just going to get in here and work all the angles. Like I said, all the leather straps, the leather belt right here, all these straps kind of in the random spots here. Just kind of got to take a look at the model and make sure you hit them all there. Alright, so there he is. All the browns are done, all the straps and everything. Like I said, you got to get right underneath here and start looking for everything there, but when you find them all, it's pretty easy to knock out, I feel like. Now, I went ahead and used some, Mechanicus Standard Gray, and went in there and hit his beard too, because that was just another super easy one right there. And back here, it was a little tough getting in here with some of the browns, so I just wanted to make sure if I was gonna go over something, I went over the blue instead of the yellow, a little bit harder to correct. So there is all that. That's pretty much done. Now we're ready to take it to the next level in the next series of videos and detail this guy out right here. Now you'll notice also, like I talked about earlier, we got a little bit of paint on some of these raised parts on the metal, but that's okay, because we're gonna come in with the hyper highlights and hit those same spots, so I'm not worried about it. You know, you could come in here and stress about it, and people might, hey, you got paint on there, but you know what? There's a greater plan, and when you're trying to work and get all these guys done, there is a time savings involved. So here is our tabletop standard Mournfang right here, and here's his buddy, Mr. taking it to the next level tabletop right here. Now, obviously, bases always make models look better, and that's what the next video is going to be on, is how to do this winter kind of shale type base right here. So this is what we're going to see all the models get up to, and then we're going to detail them up to the next level, to this quality right here. It's a two-step process, but it takes a little bit more time, but you can get more games in with painted models. So here's the finished guy right here. You can see I got all the straps and everything. I actually went in and took a quicker look at the boots and hit them with a little darker. I think this was Dryad Bark, which I think we're also going to use for some of the wood effects and things like that on the bigger mammoths, stone horns and such. But I did that for there on a few of these, and I'll probably switch it back to the lighter brown probably for some of them too, just to kind of switch the pant colors and switch the boot colors, because I don't want them all looking quite the same, you know. Now you're probably going to notice a couple imperfections here. Like I said, I'm going to come back and hit those with a lighter silver, you know, in the next video. So I'm not going to waste a bunch of time cleaning this up, because this is just kind of the halfway point, just to get them on the board. So I don't want to spend too much time on them there. But you can see pretty much nice solid base coat, got all the straps. Everything's looking pretty good to go right there. we got one more step that I almost forgot about here. So I was looking at the next video is going to be on the bases, but before we get to the bases, of course, we want to hit the wash on these Mournfangs here. So we want to get in here and we want to hit this with a wash, but we don't want to fade out the colors or anything. So the color I actually selected to do the wash was the airbrush. I bottled up some of the airbrush blowover, or I guess wastewater from the step of doing all of this. And I just waited to see if it would work. I wasn't sure if it would work. I tried it out. It actually looks pretty good. Now you can recreate the same thing by going in and using some of these same colors, and then just taking your paint mix and watering it down with some water. You can use some flow improver, you can use some Lamy and medium, you can use that 50/50 Future Floor Wax or Pledge with Future plus water mix that I like. Thin it all down, super thin. I mean, this is super thin. This is basically like, I mean, you're just talking pretty much flavored water at this point. If this was an alcoholic drink, it would pretty much just be all vodka, I feel like, at that point. But we're going to use this, and all we have to do is really just pour a little bit out, just like we would have before on, you know, a little bottle cap here. And this is super easy. You can see right there, it's kind of dark, but kind of not too bad. We're going to grab a nice chiseled brush because I love working with those things for washes. And rinse this out, make sure we're good. Okay, so now we're just gonna take this chisel brush. We're gonna try to stay away from the browns as best we can. And we're just gonna get in here, and this is almost like a glaze. You can see right there that it's just going over everything really well. So you're gonna wanna guard this, you're gonna kinda wanna guide it, come back, look at it, make sure it's not dripping or pooling. You know, very similar to what we did in the Necron video with the blacks and stuff. If you get any on the brown, it's not that big of a deal because you're really going to come back later and go over the brown with either, I forget, probably maybe a Nuln Oil. I'm not sure yet. I gotta tinker with it and kind of see what I like. I have a recipe written down that I was pretty happy with, and I think I'm probably going to stick to it. But here you want to be really careful not to get any splatter on the bone because this thing likes to splatter. So you almost have to go with the fur here around this area. And you can see that's it's so super thin, but it's really getting in there. It's really shading things, really turning it around. I love what this, I guess if this was a technical term, it would be like a glaze or quite possibly a filter almost. I guess I've heard that term go around a lot here on the, lately, you know, or on the crystal brush circuit and things like that. So there you can kind of see what's going on. I'm not going to keep you. I'm going to flip this around and do the other side. Then we're going to come back and take a look at it. So now I've pretty much given the whole thing a bath in this little mix here. You can see it's really done wonders down here in the lighter areas. Of course, it's worked in pretty good in the darker areas too, just really pulling it all together and make this nice gradient. So like I said, it's a glaze or a filter, and I just kind of go in and sporadically look for places to kind of keep the pooling to a minimum. We're not going to worry about it getting on the browns right there. That will all get taken care of later. So I'm going to put this in front of a fan, let it dry, and then we're going to come back and close out this segment. So here you can see the filter all completely dried out in there. It may look a little rough in some spots, like right here a little bit, but we're gonna get in and do a light dry brush for part of the detailing process next video, so I am not too sweating it. So now, let's take a closer look at the tabletop standard almost, because we're gonna do the bases too, which like I said is gonna be next video. So here's our tabletop. And we're gonna throw him up for comparison next to the finished model, which is right here. Here, let's trade spaces right here. So here you go. You can get a good idea of what they're gonna look like when they're all grown up and what a good halfway point is right here for the tabletop, you know, playing it at the tabletop level. It'll look a little bit better with the base there, and we'll do a comparison after we get our bases all done as well. So this is pretty much it, folks. Thanks for hanging in there for this tutorial. There will be a part 2 of how to detail it up to get it to this point and all the colors and techniques and washes that you can hopefully already have in your hobby toolbox or tool chest or hobby arsenal for that matter. And maybe you'll even pick up on some new ones that you didn't even know about. So who knows? So check back here. Hopefully that will be the next tutorial up in the series after this one.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. Thelongwar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.